Hello, makers, builders, and crafters. My name is Nathan Wheeler, and this is the Irish Makers Podcast. An episode we are very fortunate to have three professional prop makers, model makers, and designers who are going to discuss the world of prop making, the business, and working on film and TV sets. From a not so simple breakaway bottle to massive film sets and intricate moving parts, the world of prop making and set design is a huge industry in itself. If you've ever watched a movie or you've ever watched a TV show, you have seen what people like this do every single day, and it is absolutely magical. We're going to be joined by David Flynn and Christine Harold from Prop Factory, and Bryan Campbell from Arachnid FX and Polyprops UK. I want to have a discussion about how the world of prop making and set design, and then have a roundtable issue on what's affecting the industry here in Ireland and abroad. I can't even fathom how one goes from looking at movies such as RoboCop or, Total Recall, and then looks at that and then goes, I want to build that and I want to get paid for it. That seems like such an incredible life, and I'm really excited to talk to the prop makers. So first up, we're going to talk to Dave Flynn and Christine Harold from Props Factory. They're two kids who grew up in the 80s watching way too many monster films, and they worked hard and got through art college where they met so many talented and smart people. They've been lucky enough to have learned from generations of prop makers about how to build and thrive in the industry. David and Christine both have degrees in model making and 3D design. They've been head of sculpting and model making departments for various productions across the country. Christine specializes in stop motion puppetry and silicone work. They've worked on Game of Thrones. They've worked on Apple's TV show, The Foundation. They basically worked on a little bit of everything from BBC to the Tudors, the History Channel, the Gaiety, the Horror Channel. I have a list against me, and it's just a really long list that makes me feel really, really jealous of my life. So, guys, how are you doing?
Good, Nathan. Hey, Nathan.
How you getting on?
Good.
Overworked and underpaid.
Welcome to film.
The guys, it's been a long COVID. I'm really, really glad to talk to you again. I just want you to tell me, how do you even get started in this industry? Like where does it begin?
I think you have to have a real love for it. I think like that thing about us being kids growing up in the 80s watching films. I grew up with Harryhausen monster movies, like Clash the Titans, and you look at them now, but I'm obviously biased to stop motion. I still think they hold up better than some of the earlier CG work, but that's a controversial opinion. But you have to have a love for it and a real interest in it, I think. And I think you just kind of focus more towards design, what you like, what kind of draws your eye to it. And so for me, I can't speak for you, but that's kind of what started my love for it. And then you kind of have to kind of go, okay, how do I actually end up being the person with the sculpting tool or the painting brush on a film? How does that actually happen? And then you start annoying art teachers and art colleges and finding out where you can study it. For me, I found the course in Dún Laoghaire and just started getting a portfolio together, which isn't really like a normal art portfolio. You kind of have to tailor it to what the course is that you're going to try and go to. So it's a lot. At the time, we were doing a lot more. It was more 3D based, so sculpts, animatronics, but at that level, you wouldn't have that, Nathan. You'd just be, here's a little hand puppet I made, or like sketches, just basically to be able to show that you can draw, you can sculpt, you can paint, the basics of
bit of cop on. You know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So I when I finished my leaving cert, I was working in a bar and I had a theatre, so I ended up being a stagehand, and I got to know some people. And so because it was handy, I started fixing stuff. And then somebody told me about a course in Dún Laoghaire. I put in my portfolio, and then it kind of started from there. So I'd done my carpentry apprenticeship, just finished, applied for a course, got the course, went from living in the west of Ireland to living in Dublin. Didn't really know anybody, and I I had one or two contacts that I got from working in theatre at home. And I just kept ringing and pestering them. So once I finished the college, I was asked to come back for 2 years as a kind of a tutor demonstrator, and I did it like a maternity leave for somebody in the workshop. And then I ended up working in the Abbey, more films, and at that stage we kind of set up our own studio, and we just kind of taken on jobs that nobody else would do. So that's kind of where we got to. Like the stuff that nobody wants to do, we do. So
that must be like it seems like such a big step to go from, you know, being a stagehand, and then you're just kind of moving from this to this to this, and then you're putting out props. And I've seen some of the pictures we have there of, you had dragon heads, you've got obviously the set work you've done on the foundation is incredible. I can't fathom it. I keep seeing these pictures and I keep sitting there going, I'm very jealous. I feel, you know, I'm like, I don't even know how you begin with those skills. Like, you must be interacting with so many people in your professional life that teaches you that. I mean, we often say university can't prepare you for much in the real world. Do you feel that degree prepared you much?
It's a mix. I feel that I needed to do that, the college part of it, just to get more of an academic understanding of stuff, researching and stuff like that. But from my point of view, the construction side of it, I leaned so heavily on my construction experience. I started on sites when I was 16, so when I got to college, I was like 22, 23. I had 5 or 6 years done just hard end construction, like fine fixing, first fixing, second fixing. So it stood to me. That aspect of it stood to me. And I was very lucky with the people I met. I met some very supportive people, even from the people out west who supported me to some of the prop masters, designers, it's people who would just always constantly come back and go, can you do this for me? The budget is really, really little. Can you help us out? Is there anything you have? Is there anything you can do for us? I need it tomorrow.
The best bit about the college was actually making your crew, starting your crew. Like everyone that was in like the year that we were in, the year above us and the year below us, we were very lucky. It was a good group. So like we still work with a lot of those people today. So it can be like all industries, like it can be quite competitive, but if you find a good, like, you know, there's somebody that's very good at silicone, there's someone that you know is very good at molding, someone's really good at 3D Max, someone's really good at sculpting, and you kind of like work together, and you know, you sort of like, you know, there's a lot of like, if you help me with this, I'll help you with that, and you kind of like look after each other. Like there's still, even now, like I get calls from people saying, do you want a job here? Or, you know, and then I'll say, no, but you know who's really good at this particular thing. So if you kind of look after each other and kind of, you have your own kind of crew and community that like, you know, it's like
word of mouth orientated.
Yeah, it is, which I really didn't like at the start. I liked, this is my work, accept me on my work, and that's it. But that is not the reality of the industry. You need to know people. You need to be able to work with people. You need to be reliable. And you need to be able, like, it's serious hours. Like it's not a 9 to 5. It's not, you know, there's going to be a lot of christenings and weddings and holidays, and there's a lot of stuff that you can't always do. And most people are kind of like understanding of that. Like, you know, they're fine once they see the cool thing you're making. They're like, oh yeah, that's much cooler than going to a communion, you know, like, but it's, you kind of have to have a very supportive family and a very supportive partners, friend bases. We really, like, the more you look after each other, the easier it is, you know, like it's kind of the biggest thing with it.
That must be like it sounds, and I mean this in the nice way, it sounds like very precarious working, because, you know, you've got your own little company and you're trying to get in different places, and you're really relying on that word of mouth and your experience and your professionalism to get more work. And it seems like very much, it's not something I would have thought about it, but it's probably because it's very linked to the building side of things, where it's very much word of mouth and recommendation. And if Dave does a good job on this job, we'll give him another job. And if he doesn't do a good job, that's him blackballed.
But it's also that you're working with people from 5, you know, you're up at 5, You're home. Sometimes you're home at 10:30, 11:30 at night, like, and that can go on for months in freezing cold workshops, in leaky workshops, in drafty workshops, in, you know, out on set and everyone's screaming and everyone's annoyed. And then the best of it is when it's like, you know, you get a good day where it's, you know, you actually have a pain in your stomach from laughing, and that happens more often than not, like where you're, you know, like you go home and you're exhausted, physically exhausted, but you're tired because you've been laughing all day as well as getting work done, you know. So it's a different industry, but it's great. Like, it really is brilliant. You know, you'll have some of the best times of your life on set, you know, and things that just wouldn't happen in a normal working environment, you know, like making, you know, we've people have like made mops into people and stood them and had them working in the corner, and like great, like imagine doing that in an office, Nathan, like that just bye.
I know I have the most boring job in the world, trust me. But like, that sounds incredibly interesting. The getting up at 5 bit, I don't think I could do it. I'm a lazy bones.
You get over it. You get over it because you're being, because if you're not there and there's 4 other people relying on you, you know, they're like, where are you? You know, so you can't get away with it. You just have to be there.
You will get up if you want to do it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the other thing. Like, if it's something you're very interested in, like, you will get up out of bed to do it. It makes no difference. I was working on a project there, and I had a girl commuting from Newbridge and a fella commuting from Wexford. Both of them were leaving at about 5 or 6 in the morning, and they weren't getting back till 8 or 9 at night. We were lucky with one of them that we could actually kind of help them out a little bit, where we could start them a little bit earlier and finish them a little bit earlier. But the other girl kind of got stuck that she was going to the city to get home, so it didn't matter what time we let her go at. But they want to do it, so that's the other thing. Like, if you want to do it, you'll do whatever it takes,
and you'll go anywhere as well. Like, you know, we've done like those 3.5-hour commutes to Wexford for the Opera House, and then there's Belfast, Galway, living out in the middle of nowhere in actually, it was beautiful though. There was a stop motion on in Carrow, like Rossaville, you know, where you get the ferry to the Aran Islands. Like, you're an hour and a half outside Galway. Like, you're not going for the bright lights. Like, it's a lot of you have to really want to do it, you know. But it's great. Like, it's amazing, and the skills you learn from the people who are in it years, and you know, like some of the people that like we got to work with, they were on like the original. I don't know if you know, like the Clangers and the Magic Roundabout. And, you know, that studio in London, like people who've worked on Thomas the Tank Engine, like the original stuff, like, and you're learning from them, and they're passing that down, and so we try and pass that down to other makers as well, and people in you know, in the make movement and stuff, just to try and kind of get the skills out there so they don't die. You know, they're great. Like,
it seems very much that we'll have to jump over to Bryan now in 2 seconds, but it seems really like that. It's, as you said about the construction side of things, it seems very much like you're either just getting started and you're apprenticing, and then you're a prop master, and it's years of apprenticing and years of learning.
Years.
And it becomes a very much like, I've met people in my time where you ask them a question and it seems like a ridiculous question, and then they're just like, yeah, I know the answer to that, and here's what you do. And then you're like, how do you even know that? And it's like, I don't even know where that's written down, and it's not. It's just pure experience. That's kind of what you need, obviously, because there's no textbook to build a film set, or there's no textbook to build a. I don't know. Like, I saw the pictures of Christina, of your panel work on Game of Thrones. Like, there can't be a textbook for that. That's just something.
Well, there isn't. You're sort of just given a drawing, and then it's like, okay, make that happen. Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
How long did that take?
I think that was a week, because it was a series of panels, so that's just one of them. Yeah.
And then obviously they got molded and casted.
Yeah, by the plastering department. Then they take that and then they cast it, and then the painters do it up then. So everyone has their link in the chain then. Yeah.
These workshops must be vast.
That was like an air hangar that's up in you know where Harlem Wolf is? Well, it was in Belfast. That's up there. Yeah. So they're like huge, big, and I think it's like the big huge ship hall is where they kind of make everything together. So we did the ice wall as well. So that was like, that was huge now. So that, like, a lot of the work I did there was clay work, but I did get to work on a little bit of the ice wall, which is like vast sheets of poly, massive, like, yeah. So it's quite intimidating.
And just tell me, like, how did you get started on the kind of the sculpting part of things and the stop motion side of the house? That seems just like such a, like sculpting is, I've always found it very, very difficult. Like, it's, you're looking at the clay and the clay's basically like, ha, 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 you're going to be crap at this. And it takes years of practice. So how did you get really stuck into that part of making?
I did, honestly, Nathan, I didn't know I could do it. We had a project in college that was a chess thing. And I always loved Mala. That was it. You know Mala? Like,
yeah.
In school, like, so I just liked to mess around, but no more than I like painting. Did something someday, found out I could kind of sculpt, and then I just kept going and going and going and going. And I like the replication side of it, like to be able to make something exactly from an image. Just love it. Like, so I'm actually lucky enough I get to do some shadow sculpting as well. Like, there's some artists that will pay you as a maker to do some sculpting for them. So there's lots of different, like, you don't have to just go into film as a maker, you know, there's lots of different areas that you can actually go into. So if you get good at a particular skill, like painting, silicone work, sculpting, hair punching, that's another one. Hair punching, yeah, I'm sure Bryan will be able to tell you lots about that side of the house. But it's if you get known to be good at a particular skill, people will hire you for that skill, you know, and you'll get a lot of work from that as well. So, but practice, honestly, the answer no one wants to hear is hours on the clock, and a good soundtrack to work to in the background. That's it.
Yeah. Perfect. Listen, guys, thank you so much. I'm going to switch over to Bryan Campbell, and we're just going to chat to him about some of the incredible work he's been doing over the last couple of years. So Bryan is the co-owner of Arachnid FX, and he's the co-director of Polyprops EU. He first started making props in 2010. He's worked on tons of props and sets for Dublin Comic-Con. He set up Arachnid FX alongside Carl Walsh and Mark Maher in 2018. His film work has been since January 2019 till present, mostly alongside Odyssey Studios. There's an awful lot of non-disclosure agreements, so we can't talk about everything he's worked on, but essentially he's worked on a little bit of everything, and Arachnid FX has an incredible collection of props that they rent, and they service the industry. They sell cosplay supplies. They sell a little bit of everything. So Bryan, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're being flat out. So tell me a little bit how you got started.
Well, can you hear me first of all? Because I didn't know if anyone can hear me. And hi, Christine, because I've never met Christine. I've met Dave before. How's it going, Dave? Yeah, so for me, it was a case of I was always interested in films. I used to just watch them, and I was more interested in watching the behind-the-scenes stuff and how creatures, especially creature effects. Creatures were my big thing. I was always interested in monsters. It's like props are cool, but to see a monsters are the big thing for me. So I got injured in work where I had to take a long break, and my wife decided one day, why don't you learn how to make this stuff? Because you're spending far too much money buying props and toys all the time. Learn how to make it. So it's like, okay, well, I wasn't bad at art in school, so why not? And through a lot of expensive mistakes, turns out I'm not too bad at what I can do. And I'm forever learning. The learning that you do with this industry is unreal. Like, you're constantly learning. There's never a case of, oh yeah, I know how to do that. Good luck. Things change, and equipment and technology change, and it's constantly upskilling and upgrading yourself. Like, I have a list of stuff I need to learn. A list. So back in 2009, first met Carl when I was off. We met on a Predator costume forum, because Predator was always my big thing. Predator, Ninja Turtles, and Spider-Man were my big 3 movies as a kid. And we both had Predator costumes. It turns out we only lived 5 minutes up the road from each other without ever knowing that. And we met up. And Ninja Turtle, yeah. That was back at Dublin Comic-Con 2012, 2013 I made those. And that's all me in the same suit, just with swapped over heads and quickly changed it to paint.
Awesome.
That was part of the recovery of when I was recovering from surgery. My spine opened up, and spinal implant stimulator put into me, and rods and cables and everything. So that was part of the 6-month recovery. I was learning how to make stuff like this. Now, parts of those I look back and I'm like, oh man, that's terrible. That's bad. Yeah, but Bryan, again, it's all part of the learning.
If your wife basically tells you you're allowed to do it, like, you basically have a free pass for the rest of the day.
It was, but it's the cleaning up the mess and the smack across the back of the head for messing up the kitchen and the living room, the bedroom is what usually happens. And then it's a case of, oh, can you do the hoovering? I'm too tired. But if a Ninja Turtle asks you to do it, you do it. Yeah. Simple. It's like you do it for the props, you don't do it for her. It's like, yeah, 100%. So with Carol, it was like the convention scene. We went to one or two of the anime cons over here because we were saying it'd be great to see kind of the American conventions. And Carol and I, we went to, was it Arachnid? We went to Arachnid. We were like saying it was fun, but it's not what we're into. Like we're into movie sets and props and film stuff. Carl actually went wearing a screen used necromonger, and people were looking saying, what's that suit? So we were sitting there talking for almost a full year about it. Should we do a Comic-Con? Should we? Because I'm mad into Predator. I kept saying, let's just do a Predator convention. This is how we all met. It's all about Predator. And the guys went, no, if we're going to do it, let's go bigger. We'll do a Comic-Con. Carl went, yeah, let's do it. So a few of us kind of sat down and went through it all. It was the Predators Ireland group. And when it came down to it, it was Derek and Carl formed it, and we kind of played background to the guys because financially I couldn't afford it. So the guys went, and it's turned into the absolute powerhouse it is to the dedication and what they've done. It's unreal what's happened, and everything that goes on behind the scenes is unreal. Like it's a full year-round job what the guys do and how busy they are. I know Carl's up there working on something big. The Starship Troopers bug, which determined to have that for the show, and I think he's mad, but he's doing it. It's gonna happen. So we started building sets and stuff back in 2012, 2013, and from that we started making the props for the sets. And with the props, we were learning. Of course, we were getting better. And over the years, it was a case of we were always interested in. Well, I can't get these materials. Where do I get the materials? Because I remember ringing up one or two of the shops and I was asking for stuff, and they didn't know what I was talking about. Now, it could have been the way I was explaining it, or because I didn't have a clue what I was looking for. And it was one of those, everything was us testing the water with every material. Like silicone, the first thing we did in silicone, I have it chopped up in pieces in the bin. I think that was kind of the second thing I made with silicone. And then that was it. It was just everything progressed over time, and then it was a case of we talked about all the materials we want and how we want to do things. Are we better off setting up a company together? And Carl was speaking to Mark about this, and eventually we all sat down and said, right, are we doing this? We're doing it. And that's how Arachnid Effects kind of came about. So between the special effects materials and then obviously the work we do in the industry, it's kind of cool. It is very cool. There's no point saying it. It is very, very cool. When you get to sit back and watch something on TV and go, I made that. It's a pretty cool feel. And then with that, we had a good working relationship with the Polyprops lads. And then obviously Brexit kicked in, which kind of knocked and made things a lot harder for certain materials. So we spoke to the guys, made a good work relationship, and it was something they wanted to talk to us about managing and taking over the European distribution of the Polyprops products. And we said, yeah, because at the end of the day, we have stuff also made out of foam. So it said, it makes sense if we make the stuff as well. We like the stuff. That's part of an 8.5 foot tall costume, which I haven't worn in many, many, many years.
That's awesome though. Like that's really, really cool. And do you sell obviously all cosplay supplies and silicone and everything to the public?
Yeah.
There's always questions for cosplayers like myself. Is people are always going, where do you get all this stuff? And you could name a litany of places, but it's great to support local Irish businesses. You can plug away down in the description. But I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask you is you've gone from a normal job, I guess, would probably be the correct way of saying it. And then you had your injury, and then you went into prop making work, which is such a massive change. And I'm looking there at the head bust of yourself that I've seen at numerous Comic-Cons, and it always blows people away, and people are always like, that's insane. And it's incredible. So how long did it take you to get those skills and go from the Predator work, which is amazing? I love the Predator guys. You know, some of the stuff where they have the moving, what's the term? It's not the cannons. Like those things are incredible. I've seen them. People have them like automated and stuff, and then like the full costumes. They're so intricate. So how did you go from that to being like, I'm just going to get really, really into monster making? Like that head is incredible, and then you're obviously putting hair into it and follicles. Like where do you even start?
Well, with the head, we were trying to figure out what's the best way of showcasing what we do as well as the material. So we said everything we have kind of in. So someone's saying, oh, I'm looking for this type of silicone to feel like this and look like this. We can say we have all different cast samples of all the different grades. Have a look at it, and they can. We tend to have half faces and hands and props and masks, so at least they can kind of go, oh, I'm looking for this one, or I'm looking for something harder. Oh, this is what I'm looking for. So at least when it comes to materials, people have, I find that people buy with their hands and their eyes. It's not just a case of, oh, I'm looking for this and they're gone. They physically pick it up and go, this is what I'm looking for. Is it very, very helpful, because I know for myself, I'd be buying stuff and I cast it and I go, nah, this is completely wrong. Something's wrong. It's not hard. I want it softer. But to be able to walk in physically, touch something and go, yeah, okay, it has the stretch I'm looking for. Let's go with this. With the head, I also wanted live cast on the me, because I just wanted one that I can punch when I'm annoying myself. He's the silent one, so everyone seems to prefer him. But we got the live cast done. I just wanted so I can sculpt over, just to have mass to fit myself, which is the turtle, although it's a display bus only, and Thanos behind there. They're all just display bus, but they're sculpted over me. So the eyes inside, and that's my eyelids in the back of his head. So with that, it was a case of, we did the live cast, but we decided to do a clay pour, because originally we were thinking, should we go more gruesome and have half my face opened up and have things crawling out of my face? And you do a mold but once as the original live cast, we can always retool the sculpture afterwards. I think we decided on time, because we wanted to start promoting it back at Dublin Comic Con in 2018, that it was just a case of do a straight up head, so we can sit there for a comparison between the two of us. I've gone a lot grayer and a lot darker looking hair since, so but it was Mark retooled the sculpt, because even with the clay pour, you have random imperfections. So Mark, I told him to fix up my face completely, because me, so I'd rather have my face fixed up properly. So he fixed it up. I molded up self and one of the other guys, Andy. He's one of our regulars in the studio. He's a good friend. He's a great effects artist as well. So we poured it up, gave it off to Mark, and said, off you go, Mark, paint and have fun. And Mark came back with that, and same with the hair work. It was everything individually put in, hypodermic needle, one by one. I originally said keep it bald, because normally I shave my head, but I was told keep a bit of hair, just as way of showing it off.
How long does that take with a needle, hair follicle?
It's individual hair by hair. You can sit there, you can lose yourself, and it can be very, very therapeutic, because we did a full creature suit. I don't know if I could talk about it, but it's releasing soon. But we did a full creature suit. 7.5 foot tall, maybe taller. I think 7.5 foot. And it's a full haired suit. The creature arms, the creature head, neck, everything is fully hand punched, hand done. But we were a race against time doing it. But it looks amazing. I can't wait to show the suit, because again, creatures is what got us into this. So I'm dying to see the creature on the screen. Just
with a little needle, and then you just into the silicone and you just whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yeah, just one by one, and you're kind of watching which way the hair flows and everything else, and because you can easily just jab them in, and you've got 20 hair sticking like that. Your hair doesn't sit like that. Your hair, where it curves around, and cast slicks especially, because I've got stupid amount.
How long did that take?
Yeah. Mark's fiance Deborah, I think she began hair punching it, and then I believe his aunt did a small bit of it, but it was one of those. We kind of left it just as a way of showing how it's done, because we could easily hair punch it and shave it off afterwards. And I was saying, should we put a big tribal tattoo on my face or do a mohawk, just for a bit of fun. I'm not too sure how long it took them, because even there's a moustache in there that's shaved, and I know there's a few days anyway, because I know Carl and I, we hair punched the full Lycan suit before in the middle of Atlanta on a bed, and I think we had 20 needles in each hand, and we just went hell for leather, because the costume was delayed flying across to Atlanta, and literally we got in, we threw it across the bed, and himself and myself, we jumped on the back and we just went hell for leather, punching like crazy, because we had 6-7 hours, we had just go. I think I said the cleaning crew walked in and said they've got an animal in here easily. There was hair everywhere, white hair.
What's wrong with these people?
There was a monster in there somewhere.
All right, listen, thank you so much, Bryan. We're going to go over to the round table now, and we're going to ask you guys some pretty crazy questions other people have asked us to ask you, and we just kind of want to explain it all to us. So, guys, thank you all so much for coming. So, first off, I thought it was a great question we had, is working for free or working for exposure. Is this something that both you, Bryan, and the Props Factory, is this something you guys have faced, of where people are like, oh, I don't really want to pay it, you're just going to have to work for a bit of exposure, and then there might be some more work down the line? Or how have you guys dealt with that?
It's been said to me a lot. We can afford to pay the materials, but we can't pay the labor. So, we've just stopped. We decided...
We actually never did it.
when we were in college, we did 1 or 2 things for free, and then after that, we just decided we're not working for free. And anybody who's willing to work for free, we won't employ them and we won't work with them. So if it's very harsh, but you're causing problems in the industry.
It damages the industry,
like massively. So we just have that thing where we won't work for free. There is a movement, stop working for free, and there's a film group as well.
Yeah.
So there's
a lot of people in it. Like there's costume designers, makeup artists, like musicians, and people who would sort of. I think it actually came from the political. It came from like all the political interns in America. That's where it started. It's years old. Like, we would have had a lot of that, you know, like basically just asking you to work for nothing. And I always used to say to people, like, you wouldn't ask a carpenter to come in and go, come here, listen, you just wouldn't throw up a couple of shelves there for me, would you? Like, oh, I'll tell my friend Mary down the road about you, and maybe she'll pay it. Like, no. Like, so it would be fairly hard line on it now. I am, you know.
No. Where do I spend my exposure dollars?
Yeah, like people who are in the industry really love it, like, you know, and you're really exploiting them. And I think, you know, even if all you can do is pay someone their travel or their, you know, give them 20 quid for the day. I mean, back in the day, like about 10 years ago now, you'd give them something, like you'd be embarrassed not to, you know what I mean? But, you know, then again, like people, like if you know, I've definitely taken jobs where I absolutely should have not have said yes to them for the price, you know, like absolutely should not have. But the trade-off is that you do learn stuff from people who are masters of their craft. You're going in as an intern and you are learning unbelievable skills, and then you kind of can level up then. But definitely not working for free.
For nothing.
Like, for nothing.
What about you, Brian? Have you ever faced this issue?
Yeah, I had it recently. Some a film director, I'm not going to name names or anything, but he came in and said he threw me 20 quid in an envelope in my back pocket, and, you know, that's how things are done. I looked at him and was like, that's not how things are done. And he then he was like, well, sure, look, it's for exposure. This is how it's done. I went, this is not how it's done. No. I know. The meeting very, very abruptly ended. But it happens. It's like anything. If you work for free, you'll have a job for life. But unfortunately, that's not paying your bills, and that's not putting the roof over your head and you're done. You know? I did a short film back in 2016, kind of just testing the waters, and I know that cost me. I told the guy how much it would cost, and he said, "Yeah, no problem." And then I didn't even get a fraction of it to cover what it cost, let alone everything else that it cost me to do it. And I was kind of like, "Yeah, not again," you know.
Yeah. You kind of learn after you get stung a couple of times, like where you know, when you're saying yes to every single job, and like you're the Egypt at 4:30 in the morning, still working, getting something done, and it's freezing cold. You're in a damp workshop. You're like, what? You know, and then the next morning they come in and collect it, and they're like, okay, bye now. You're like,
yeah, no, never heard from them again.
Yeah,
and they never see them again. Like, never see them again. We did some work for an unnamed advertising agency long ago, and we were handed, you know, all these massive health and safety lists and things like that, and you know, we were hours on the paperwork, and like that would have been a full-time job itself, you know, the clerical side of it. And then, you know, like one of those things where, like, you know, you were so tired, you're exhausted, we got it across the line, felt great, got it up, you know, and you're hearing this, oh, there's not enough money, there's no money, and then they rock up in a Bentley. You're like, I'm starting to think that might not have been true.
That's just you just been taken advantage of, though. Like
yeah, but you learn, you know, like Brian said there, like you learn. It does. You kind of go, not doing that again.
So, Christine, tell us, what's it like being a female in the industry? One would have thought it's very male-dominated. How do you feel about it?
It was at the start. So, like 13 years ago, it definitely was. Like, but now there's like huge amounts of women makers and model makers. Like traditionally, there would have always been a lot of, you know, makeup girls that could do silicone work and were really highly skilled painters. And they would be fantastic, like, you know, completer finishers. So you bring a model into them, and you'll also be looking at it going, there's something not right, there's something not right. And then one of the girls in makeup will come up and go, it just needs this, you know, and they'll do something with it and it just falls into place. But there wouldn't have been a huge amount of sculptors, model makers, fabricators, but now there's loads. Like there's a lot of them, and they are very good. Like you'd struggle to find a might be biased again now saying this, but you would struggle to find a girl that isn't phenomenal at it. Like I think because so few girls kind of stick with it, because it's a very hard job to stick with, because of the lifestyle, because of how difficult it can be. Yeah, there was a couple of, I kind of sought them out. So Ellie McNamara is a really good, she's a really good maker and sculptor, and she's been in film for years. Emma Hansen, really, she was the lady that was HOD on Game of Thrones. I sort of tried to find them out. I think I found a lot of them on LinkedIn, and then I kind of was like, okay, where are they now? I started knowing them with CVs. I think Emma nearly got a Bryan order out on me because the amount of times that I was emailing and ringing that woman, like, you know, I think she was like, look, you haven't done anything big enough. I can't hire you. You haven't done anything big enough. So myself and another friend of mine bought a massive block of poly. I think it was like 6x6 or something like that. You know, like, and then out in my mom's conservatory, hammering away at it, and then sculpted a big gargoyle. And like, I look like what Bryan was saying there, like you look back on things you did years ago and you're like, oh my God, how was I standing there congratulating myself thinking that was amazing, and it's a heap of crap. Like, but you know, like I was saying earlier, there's steps that you have to take. But like in general, like working with the lads on set, they're great. They're great fun. It's good crack. You know, the girls are well able. You've got huge amount of female crew, because it's good to get that balance with everyone. You know what I mean? Like you definitely notice the difference. There is a difference when it's just all guys and you're the only girl. And there are some jobs, to be honest with you, there are some jobs you won't get because you are a girl. And I've been told that to my face.
Oh, wow.
There's no point and it doesn't exist. But there is a reason for it. Like there are some things that you just physically can't lift. Do you know what I mean? And like if there's a very restrictive budget, someone's going to look at that budget and go, am I going to hire Christine, but she won't be able to lift all that shit? Or am I going to hire someone else and they can? And where it gets really, it can be very crushing, like, and it's hard, but you kind of just go, well, like life's not fair, so you just have to keep going. That's it. You just have to find someone who will hire you and keep an eye on them until they just say yeah, just to shut you up.
It's good to see that there's changes in the industry. As a follow-up there, what's it like being a couple? Like you're both in the same industry together. It obviously makes it much easier to understand.
It's fantastic, Nathan. We never fight. It's amazing. It's great. I'd recommend it to everyone.
I can see I've unearthed something here. This is hard-hitting journalism right here, guys.
But actually, it's not just for the couple. It's like Bryan had the same thing with the lads in the studio, because when you're working with people 24/7 under high pressurized situations, there's going to be, and then you've thrown a bunch of...
Once you say it out loud, I work with this guy 24/7, and then I go home and talk to him. I'm like, oh, that's going to go very well.
Like, so you're tired, you're grumpy, you're filthy, you're like stressed. But like that happens with the people you're working with, because you're with them just as much as you're probably with them more than you would be with your partners. The only way we found to get around it is to be like, right, and then you've got like artistic egos getting thrown into that as well, which just adds another layer of challenge. But kind of how we got over it was just like, right, I do these things, and you can't have a comment on these things, and you do those things, and I'll still come over and annoy you about those things. Well, you have to try and separate it. That's the only way you can do it. But that'll happen with like business partners as well. You know, that's happened. Like we had like a load of people with us in the studio. We had about 5 people when we started, And it was the same thing, you know, like everyone has an opinion and everyone's up in everyone's face, and you have to kind of go, that's your corner, this is my corner. You try and just like not have too many arguments. That's
and what about you, Brian? Is your wife very understanding? I mean, she pushed you into it, so one would hope.
I came home one day with silicone and said, put your hands on the table, and she looked and said, what? I said, we're doing a good close detail hand shot, so I'm going to life cast your hands and stick them on a dead body. And she goes, what? So yeah, just put your hands. And while having dinner to go back to work and silly o'clock in the morning, I went back with a clay version of her hands and stuck them on a body that got a real good close up. And it looked weird pulling it out of a mold that it's like, oh, there's a dead body. That's my wife's hands. Because the first thing I said was, where's your wedding ring? Because the imprint was still across the finger at the time. And it's cool. I think now that I can bring stuff home, I have a young daughter and she's mad about this stuff. When I brought the head home Friday night, first thing she did was hopped up on the table and my wife Marina, she goes, where's Daddy? You're going to give him a kiss? And straight over, and she stopped and then looked back at me and was like, no, hold on, whoa. In between the boat, looking at both heads, and then I put a hat on him. She was like, no, that's on you. You're putting on the hat instead. Like she's mad into the Ninja Turtles and Predator. We keep bringing her into the prop rooms. The first thing she goes for is Predator, the Velociraptors, and Hellboy. She's a fascination with Hellboy now. Which is kind of cool because we brought Bryan coming to Dublin Comic Con in 2 weeks' time. So I'm very excited. I've a lot of the original prosthetics and props from that were got from Rick Baker's auction directly. So
amazing.
So like we've a lot of the original stuff. That's only one of them. But I have his face, I have his hands. I have the coat from the 2019 movie. I have Ape Sapien. I have Cronin, all original props sitting downstairs in the room. And even what Carl was saying when he got McNally, there's the coins from Pirates of the Caribbean, and they're all legit. So there's going to be random swords and other props and weapons that we're bringing to the show.
Cool.
Because again, while we make the props, I also collect the film props from movies that I like. Like Underworld Lycans, Predator stuff, Aliens, original Alien head sitting downstairs. So the prop room is the best room in the house. I hate every other room. You're bored, just go into the prop room, take a walk around. There's a reason you're poor. I drive a 15-year-old car. There's a reason I'm poor. It's this stuff. But it's cool being able to see it. As I was saying, when you watch something afterwards and you kind of get to see it on the big screen, you're like, damn, it's nice to see it on big screen. You know it's worth it all in the end. The hours, the blood, sweat, and tears at times. There's some projects you work through and you blitz through and you have a great time doing it. And then it still hasn't been released yet. And people go, what did you do 3 years ago? Yeah, we'll eventually see it on screen. There's other things that were released and produced that we didn't even know about. We did a lot of quick rental props and prosthetic bodies with knives and blades and wounds, and these are cool looking. And because we already don't even know what the name of the production was, they just wanted something quickly, and there you go, gone out the door. I know we did a few breakaway glasses. I don't know which production it was for. Smashing medical bottles. Here's the original. Yeah, of course I can. And then we had a glass fight around the workshop where we just got smashed bottles across each other's head just because why not?
You should have that on a stall at Dublin Comic Con. It's like 10 quid for a bottle and just.
It's the cleanup is the problem. The convention centre wouldn't let us.
Yeah.
But, no, we did it one night. 2 o'clock in the morning. We just made a load of window panes and just stood there bashing each other over the head, just for fun.
I think everyone did. Like, once you make your first bit of sugar glass, you're like, oh, look at that. And then you just like go around, and then like you kind of look around an hour later, and you're like, who's going to clean all this stuff?
Clean it up. Yeah, that's the thing. And you're throwing it across walls to see who can make the best smash.
Tell me now, what was it like? What was the effect of COVID on your businesses? Because I can only imagine it was very difficult.
Yeah.
Go on, Rick.
No, I was going to say if you want to go ahead. For us, we were working on foundation stuff, and we didn't know what was going on because we kind of knew COVID was serious. This is coming. You know, what do? Do we just keep powering on ahead up until the point we're stopped? We didn't know. It was an awkward because we were still also building stuff for Dublin Comic Con in the background, and I think we were told on the Thursday they're not even going to let us in the convention centre on a Friday. You know, we were like, this is the day ahead of the show. We were told this is everything's coming. The country's going to come to a stop. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. It was more the uncertainty because with everything stopped, and I think pretty much the film industry shut down almost straight away, didn't it? Or pretty much everything came to a dead stop. And for us, it was a case of we have a business, we got bills to pay, rent to pay. What are we going to do? And I know at one stage we started making all the face shields and just handing them out to the hospitals because I had 3D printers sitting at home, and I was like, right, we're just going to keep printing. And I remember at one stage I was in the workshop cleaning and packaging off to send stuff to the hospital. And my wife was ringing me every hour, half an hour, saying, well, I just keep swapping them over on the machine. Yep, just keep going, and just stacking them up in the house. We were just trying to do what we can. And it was, I think it was the glimmer of hope when we started getting phone calls saying, hey, there's a production looking for something. And we're like, oh, quick, take what we can get, because then they bills had to be paid. We didn't want a case of, we didn't get any financial help off anywhere. It was just a case of tightening the purse strings and just be careful what you spend, guys, because we don't know when the next paycheck's coming in, because we don't know when things are going to resume. It was awkward. Our baby was also born 3 months into it at the start, so it's trying to juggle that and being a dad as well at the time, where you're disappearing out trying to get things done and then coming home and the late nights and times. It's been an interesting journey now, but at the start it was head-wrecking. It was more the uncertainty between everything. What's going on? We don't know. That was the hardest part, I think, more than anything.
Yeah. What about you, Dave?
What about you guys? Because you were probably on set at the time.
Yeah, we were on season 1 of Foundation, and we were fitting. We'd like 20 doors to build and fit for the following week. Fiberglass doors, big, like 12-foot doors. Yeah. There were 2 sections of it. We were running behind on them, and they came in and they said, all right, make safe. So everything had to be made safe in the workshop. And my boss came down and he's going, it's probably going to be 2 weeks, so we'll probably stand down on Friday. So that was like the Tuesday. He came into me on Wednesday going, anybody who's far away or needs to fly, send them now. Anybody who can leave now, send them. So we'd guys who are local, and I had some people come to me saying, like, their parents are a little bit older, I need to start quarantining now. So, like, of course, you do whatever you can for them. So they all left us. I think at the end there was 3 of us in the workshop, and like, at least we had 3 of us who were there. So we made safe, came back to Dublin, and I took like 2 weeks of a break, going, oh, this is just going to be a break. It'll be fine. We'll be back in 2 or 3 weeks. And then it was like, oh, it could be another 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then just beforehand, I got a phone call from two art directors. And both of them were like going, oh, you're finishing up. I might have some work for you. So I contacted them, and they got me to do props for one. One was a bit of signage, and then the other one was like some vampire props. So it was like stakes, bits and bobs. So from that kind of stuff, I was quite lucky. And then I started doing my own stuff, like kitting out the workshop the way I wanted to kit it out, doing my own personal projects as well. And just kind of, it was nice to be able to get up and walk. Like, I'm within walking distance of the workshop. So I was within the quarantine. And you were there on your own. There was never any, not worry, but there was never anybody around. It's a quiet enough area where we were. So walk to the workshop, walk back, have lunch. It had been a while since I was in the studio on my own. So from my point of view, it was different. Like, so COVID took a bit of a mental hit on me as well. Like, you go from starting work at 8 o'clock in the morning, finishing at around 6:30, 7 o'clock, to not having a schedule, like not needing to get up. So the kind of days started getting a little bit later. So instead of being there at 8 o'clock, it was 8:30, and it was 9 o'clock. But I kind of had to get to the point where it's like, look, I need to keep going. Like, the industry will come back. This will end. So, well, at least, I didn't think it was going to take 2 years, but at least there is an end in sight now.
A lot of the studios were quite good in their testing. So, like, probably one of the safest environments to be working was a studio, because they couldn't afford to let it get out of control. So, like, every week people were getting tested 2-3 times a week on one of them. Whereas like in most places that where you had to go back into work to be on site, they weren't doing that. So at least if you're on set, you were getting tested, or your co-workers were getting tested. So if it was there, it was going to get picked up quicker. So that was kind of comforting, knowing that if that you could nip it in the bud before it got the chance to go nuts. So, and it was I actually think the industry handled it quite well. Like, people were just got on with it and just did the best they could, wore the gear, did the right thing, got tested, kept going. You know, like.
Yeah, from us, it was like wearing a mask. We wear respirators, so a mask wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Like for other people, it's just they're a lighter mask. It's fine. Like it's probably something we should be wearing in the workshops anyway. So, like.
Something tells me a kind of COVID anti-vax, anti-mask person sitting there around casting fiberglass is not going to survive very long.
No. Yeah, but like it was. COVID was tough for everybody, you know, but Christine was saying, the industry. So when I was in Limerick working on foundation, they tested 3 times a week, and they had trackers for everybody. So if you get your COVID test back within like 3 or 4 hours, they had an on-site testing area, and they could isolate you very quickly. Like, so if there was a positive case, that they isolated people very quickly, and they could track who you were into or who you were near and stuff like that. We went out to Fuerteventura with it for a few months as well. Same thing, they were tracked out there, and when we came back, smaller productions had a little bit more problem because they didn't have the budget, but they were testing twice a week, and you get the results the next day. But if you were like, I started a job in Belfast, and they tested me in Dublin on the Sunday before I started on the Monday, so that when I went up there, they knew we weren't cross-contaminating, like bringing COVID with us.
I think it was controlled as much as it could have been, you know, by the industry, like, you know, but it was, like the lad saying, very tough on everyone, like just the uncertainty of not knowing, you know, because film is uncertain anyway, you know, we always used to have this joke like, oh, we've no work coming in, what will we do? Book a holiday. The second you book a holiday,
be job.
Guaranteed to be a job the next week. Like, you know, every time, like, make a plan and someone will offer you a job if you're not working. It's like funny, but it's true. But you know, so that's what we used to try and do if it was very long periods of uncertainty, and then definitely because there was like 2 of us dependent on that income, it can get a bit hairy sometimes. So then when you throw COVID into the mix, it was a bit scary. It was scary for everyone, you know. And I'd say especially for people coming up in the industry, you know, who were still trying to like cling on to every piece of work that they got, you know. I'd say it was probably most difficult for them, you know.
I can imagine. I'm just going to finish off with one last question because we've blown through our time, but it was great chatting to you. I just want to get from each of you just if you were to give a little bit of advice to people who are watching or listening about getting involved in the industry in a tweet, what would that bit of advice be? We'll go left or right. We'll go Bryan.
Portfolio, just reaching out to a studio, because you never know, somebody might have something coming up, and to get a hands-on is a big difference from physically doing stuff at home. Like, to be in a studio setting and doing something beside someone who knows what they're doing, you'll learn so much just sitting there watching somebody, let alone if they say, hey, throw your hands in on this. What you learn is invaluable, you know. What else? It's it's like a reach out to people, because I know for me it was always afraid to ask questions, but asking questions, you learn so much. And like I said, I've made the expensive mistakes, so I know from somebody asking, don't do this because this will happen. It's happened to me, and that cost me X, Y, and Z amount of money. You don't want that, especially when you're trying to budget for everything you do. Because it's not a case of, okay, you've got 5 kilos to make this silicone mold, and you come back and said, I've messed it up 3 times. Who's paying for that? You are. And then it's like, well, do it correctly. Learn the mistake the first time on something small. So when it comes to doing the bigger thing, you know what you're doing then. And then it's, oh, I blitzed through that, no problems, no issues, off you go. Do the next one. Mistakes happen. There's nothing you can do about it. You can do something correct, and it can still go wrong at times, and it happens. But learn, keep your head down, keep your nose clean, smile and say hello. That goes a long way, because people remember you just being, oh, you're a nice person, yeah, grand. Don't badmouth anyone, because you don't know who you're working with. That's another thing, because somebody knows somebody, and somebody will tell somebody else. Keep your nose clean, keep your head down, smile, say hello, listen, take on advice, and just be happy. At the end, you get to make cool stuff. You get to meet interesting people who are all from different areas, all coming into the one area. You're all brought in to do the same job. You know, at the end of the day, stand together as a team, you know, because otherwise you'll fall. But no, just be happy and enjoy. You know, it's a cool industry to work in. It can be very stressful, but the end result is always worth it. You know, at least that's for us anyway. I don't know about you guys, but no, it's cool to be able to do this stuff. You know, it's always been that when you enjoy it, it's not a job. You know,
yeah,
you get to enjoy it. You walk home, you're smiling. It doesn't feel like a job. It began as a hobby. It's a job now. And obviously, when, like with the guys, you run your own studio, it's a lot different. People think, oh, when you're finished, you go home. It's like, no, we've paperwork to do, we've things, we've websites, we do the material. So half the time, I don't get to be on site because I tend to be in the studio breaking down materials, working on things, prototyping things, checking this accounts, la 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 la. So your whole day is gone just doing silly things before you actually get to physically work on things at times.
When I met Dave, I got onto him and we met at Dublin Comic Con. And I sent him a few messages afterwards, and I was like, listen, any chance you can teach me how to cast and mold? And he's like, yeah, sure. And I came over to the workshop, and I think I brought biscuits. And he taught me how to mold and cast. And right here beside me in my workshop, I've got all casting stuff. I still have a bunch of casting stuff from you. And I've been casting since then. And I've been kind of nothing too big, but all just small little molds. And once I figured it out and I had someone teach me and show me how to do it, it stopped being scary. It stopped being worrisome. I'm thinking, oh, God, there's no way I can do this. Whereas Dave was just like, grand, we'll do it in like a Coke can. And like we cast some 40k purity seals, and I destroyed like 2 of them. And then he's like, just come back in a week. And then he showed me again, and he made them, and they were beautiful. And I've been casting with them ever since. And it's brilliant when you have that. So guys, in Props Factory, tell me if you want to just give a little tweet of what you would say to people who want to get up in the industry or start in the industry.
If you want to start in the, what I think is be positive. YouTube is a great teaching resource. Like again, what Bryan says, like talk to people. Don't be slating people behind their back. I find you really could do with driving. Like a lot of the studios aren't. Yeah. It's be on time. Yeah, be on time. Like if you're 15 minutes early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. Like come in 15 minutes early. Have your cup of tea. Have the chats. Be social. Have lunch with people. Like you don't have to. If you're not in the same department as people, talk to people. The more people you talk to, the better it is. The Stan Winston School is an online course. It's amazing. Now it's expensive, but you can actually just buy the videos as you need them. Like a great resource. Who else? Do you know what? Dick Smith, I think. Dick Smith was like a really,
it's a long time old stuff. Yeah.
Like there is a lot of stuff there that wasn't there when we started. Like
massive amounts of things that like you couldn't even find a book to tell. Like I remember particularly with stop motion. I couldn't even find a book to tell me how to make, like long before college. So a good way to do it is if you have a favorite film, like I think I was obsessed with The Corpse Bride and what else did I have? Corpse Bride and Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah. So you find so you get those DVDs and you look at all the extras, and then usually they'll have somebody in a workshop and it'll have their name, and then you find their name and then you go research them. You go, that's the thing I like to do. That's what they're known for. Who are they? What else have they done? Where did they study? And like you can build your skill set up. Like if you want to focus on certain areas, that's a good way to do it. Is research. Like research the people who are turning out beautiful work. Like it's easy, to kind of like just keep stabbing away at it yourself. But like you can fast track it. Find someone who really knows what they're doing. And hunt them down like a predator and stalk them and annoy them with questions. I find that works really well. That's a good way to do it.
The MIC community is a very good community because they're very open. Like if anybody, it's very open source. If you find somebody doing something and you can contact them, they'll normally answer you. And I found that I've tried to do that myself as much as I can. Like you were saying, if anybody asks me how to do something, I'm happy to explain it. And I think, Bryan, you're the same. It's like the more people are doing it, the more we're going to learn. Like the more open source.
I had an email at 3 o'clock this morning. From a customer. How much material do I need to mold this? 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I got a missed call and I looked and said, did they ring at 3:30 in the morning? They did, yeah.
But you can imagine what state they're trying to get that job done. You're calling the supplier at 3 a.m. It's not good.
Yeah.
God knows.
But that's what it is. It's simple. It's like we're here to help at the end of the day. It's a small industry. Yeah. Most people know everybody. You know, most people know each other. And at the end of the day, just be able to help each other, because you could be working with them on the next job and they say, hey, how's it going? You know, that person had to help me. Give them a dig out with their stuff. You know, so let's stand together.
You need good people coming into the industry as well, so that you can pick up the phone and go. Like if you have like the crew on, what was the crew on? Foundation was like 25 of them at one stage. Like you try to get 25 highly skilled people who all work well together. Yeah, is a challenge, you know, and like that's why the people who are good, you know, you keep them close, you keep them happy. You learn from them. And like, as I was saying earlier, everyone has their own little niche. So, you know, there's a lot of people who, like in Ireland, you kind of have to be really a jack of all trades if you want to kind of do well in film and theatre, opera, things like that. You kind of need to be able to be a sculptor, a painter, a mold maker, a fabricator. You know, you need to be able to do all of those things. I prefer to specialise, but the industry, you kind of need to be able to do everything in Ireland at the moment, but everyone has their even inside that, everyone has their own little thing, you know. So find your crew, find your network, and research people.
Perfect. Anyone have any last shout outs or any upcoming events?
Yes. Dublin Comic Con. Yeah, obviously we've Dublin Comic Con in 2 weeks' time. 12th and 13th of March in the CCD. Be there. It's deadly. It's the best con to go to. And then obviously if you need materials, we've the Arachnid Effects, www.arachnideffects.com. Ring us, phone us, email, and then we've the polyprops.eu for any of the craftsmen, for the phones and everything else as well. So otherwise than that, everyone just have fun, makes cool stuff.
And that's it from the Irish Makers podcast. A big thank you to our sponsors, Coding Grace, to Vicky Toomey Lee for all her incredible production work, and especially to you, our listeners, and even our guests who have just blown my mind with the industry knowledge that they have. We'll be back next episode with a discussion on people who've left the city during the pandemic, and they've created some amazing things in the countryside, from CNC machines to crocheting. These people took their passion, got out of the city, and they've really created in isolation. You can follow the Irish Maker podcast on Twitter, on Instagram, and on TikTok. You can listen to it on Anchor, or you can watch the entire podcast right on YouTube. All our thank you so much to our guests. All their details are down in the description. There's links to everything. There's links to Polyprops, to Props Factory, and to Arachnid FX. And if you're looking for cosplay supplies, you can get it all there. Listen, thank you so much. We're really excited to launch this podcast. And thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, keep making.